Welcome back to Connect Conversations. Today I'm delighted to be joined by the founder of Vyra, Bex. How are we?
Yeah, good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. So, Vyra.
Yeah.
So cool. Talk us through that.
So Vyra is an acronym in coaching for vitality in your journey through resilience and alignment, which came up with it's a long time to think about that. It came a long way since just coached by Bex, like way back. I think before that I was actually like my full name, like Bex McKenzie Fitness, and I was like, nah, I need to get creative with it. Originally I was the empowerment PT before that, and then I kind of realised that a lot of coaches have empowerment in their name somewhere, especially if they are a female coach. So I didn't really feel like it was unique and individualised to me anymore. I just kind of thought like it's a very common thing, like it doesn't really fit with my identity if everybody has it. So I sat and thought about the rebrand, and I sat and thought about like what I wanted to bring to the branding, the coaching, and obviously what my service entails. And I came up with the acronym as I was writing down what I feel like all my clients experience. I feel like they all experience a different sort of vitality, and not enlightening in any sort of way, but like they come up from their struggles and they have that as part of their lifestyle. It's very versatile. Everybody's journey is very unique to the person, and there's a lot of resilience that comes with being a woman, and a lot of alignment that you find through fitness that follows through into every other part of your life. So I came up with the acronym, and then the colour and the logo was just, it fitted so well. Like I loved it, visualisation of like a blossom blooming, and I was like, that looks really cute, that looks really pretty. It also stands for quite a lot, and obviously because I coach females I wanted it to be very feminine, and it just worked quite well. I drew it up in Canva myself.
And it's now live for everybody to see,
live,
and I must say it does look really, really good, and you can
Thank
tell you've obviously put a lot of work, a lot of effort into it, and even the name itself, you know, you spoke about resiliency, and that's obviously something we're going to get into massively, but you know, standing out from the crowd, everybody's got their own kind of story, everybody's got their own journey, and you can tell that the name itself really does stand for something that is unique, and you know, I hope, and I'm sure a lot of people will see that. So taking us right back to the start, obviously growing up, what was that like for you? Where did you grow up? What was the younger life like for Bex?
So I went in between two places, so Govan and then Paisley, so probably like the roughest parts of Central Belt. Doesn't sound like it now because I've been a few places, but I grew up Govan and Paisley mainly, and it was quite tough. My mum was a single parent. She was 19 when I was born, and through a lot of self-awareness and through a lot of my own therapies that I've worked through, I realised that she was just a child herself. That was her first time at life, like it was mine. So she went through quite a lot of struggles, and she had 3 jobs when she was a single parent. My dad was never in the picture for whatever reason. I don't know to this day. I've not had really much contact with him. So she brought me up, and I feel like there was always like this disconnect between me and my mum because she worked a lot, and there was always like this resentment, I feel, as well, because she had me so young, and she felt like she had missed out on so much of her life. She'd missed out being a teenager, she'd missed out on having that social element that you do when you're young and when you're growing up, and instead she was a mum changing nappies and looking after babies, and she just wasn't really enjoying that part of her life. I think she did suffer with postnatal depression, and I think it did affect her, and she just wasn't willing to admit that. When we have spoke about it before briefly, she has mentioned like symptoms of that, traits of that, but I don't think she ever got the help that was required, and so there was never that bond. And I spent a lot of time being looked after by my nana, who is still with us to this day, which I'm very thankful for. She is probably one of my best friends in life. She brought me up, and I spent a lot of time living with her. So she would take me to school, she would pick me up from school. When I still seen my paternal gran, she would come and see me, and she would take me to school, and we'd have days at the weekend and stuff like that. So I had a good circle of maternal figures around me, which I was very grateful for, but I just didn't have that bonding experience with my own mum, which I lacked a lot throughout of life. We moved about a lot when I was younger as well. just due to different circumstances. So the first place that we lived in was very full of like crime and drugs. Wasn't very safe. It wasn't like the best place to bring up a child in that area. My mum actually decided that enough was enough when she found a needle in the close and said, I don't want that anymore. Like, I don't want to live through that myself, never mind try to bring up a child through that as well. So that was when we kind of moved more to Paisley. It was still quite a rough area, but not as rough as like where we were in Govan originally, and spent a lot of time there, as I say, between there and with my gran. And then I was in primary school when my stepdad came into the picture, and they met through one of my mum's jobs. So she had 3 jobs, one of which was IKEA at the night shift. So they met during that time. He came into my life and basically introduced me to a healthy diet. Before then, it was literally just like what my mum could give me.
Like scheme diet?
It was like yellow. I'm talking no fruit and veg in sight, just yellow food. Like, zero colour, probably battered, probably breaded or fried of some sort. So he came into my life and introduced me to a wider palette of foods, which was great. And he introduced me to like the sports that I went on to take part in later down the line, so that I could become more confident and so that I could allow myself to make more friends, because that's what I really struggled with when I was in primary school. I didn't have like your typical friends that you grew up with. Like, I had nursery friends, but because we moved, I never seen them again. We never went to the same primary school. So I was literally going into primary 1 with nothing, like no friends, nobody that I knew. I found it very difficult to socialise and to fit in. And I always felt like there was a wee bit of a difficulty there with like my anxiety, and I think that's probably the first kind of signs of my anxiety showing, was how much I struggled to fit in. But obviously when I went to these clubs, it was different because we're all like-minded in that sense when you're young and you're all doing the same thing together, so you build that friendship out of a hobby, which was really nice. But we ended up with me and my mum and stuff, like we moved into my Nana's house because later down the line she then went on to become pregnant with my middle sister, obviously my stepdad's daughter, and after that had my youngest sister as well. So we moved into my Nana's house temporarily before we moved into our own house, so that my middle sister had like stability when she was born. I was getting used to my sister. Still went to the same...
Took you a while.
Yeah, still went to the same primary school. And then obviously went to the high school that was local to that area at the time. So yeah, there was a lot that kind of changed. There was a lot of moving parts in my younger years, like me struggling socially throughout the whole of like my primary school did lead to some bullying, and because of my diet at the time that I mentioned, like literally being all beige, I was quite overweight as a child. And I think with kids, even still now, if you are the slightest bit different, they go for it. They will launch onto that and grab hold of it and just slaughter you for it. Doesn't matter what you look like, if you're the slightest bit different and not what they think is normal, they will pick on you for that. So in my case, I was quiet.
Yep. And
I was overweight, so they thought you're an easy target. And there was a point where I eventually managed to have like a wee small group of friends, one of which I'm still really friendly with to this day.
And this was in high school, sorry?
Primary school.
Sorry, so.
Yeah, so that's primary school. There was a day where I think it was like primary 2, and I had a wee small group of friends, so it took me quite a while, as I say, to get this wee group, and we were just chatting away, and we decided to go on to one of those like big jungle gyms like that you get in like the primary schools, and we were just sitting having our lunch. We managed to get to the top and we were just chatting away, and I heard my name briefly, turned round, and all I can remember is this boy just pushed me off the jungle gym, fell straight to the ground, cracked my head open, broke my wrist. Like, it was a horrible experience. And it was something that kind of stuck with me. It really shook me at the thought of being attacked for no reason, just because I was a different body shape to someone else, or I was slightly a bit different to that person. And that was one of the reasons why I ended up moving school, like one of the first times that happened. I think my mum's way of, and still is my mum's way of dealing with things, is to run away from the situation. So instead of getting the school involved and fighting for that boy to have a punishment or get the boy's parents involved and have like some sort of confrontation about it, she just moved me school. She just thought it was easier if I just moved school and that wouldn't happen again. So that group of friends that I had, I haven't seen two of them, but got in contact with the other one like a few years ago, saying like, oh wow, we were friends in primary school because by chance we happened to bump into each other, but I may not have seen her again. So it was a lot of friendships and then not having anything, and then friendships and then no stability again.
It was actually a word you'd say there, stability, was actually a word I was going to pick up on. It seems like there was a lot of instability, and then that's just obviously in your earlier part of your life, so especially so young, and obviously the brain not probably being matured, going from different environments, so young, setting up, friend, no friends, setting up, doing that consistently, and then obviously that accident happening to you as well. It can't be, imagine an adult trying to deal with that, imagine a child like yourself trying to deal with that, it's a lot.
Yeah, and like processing those emotions, like having worked with kids, like they have a lot of big emotions that they struggle to process. So as a like 6-7-year-old maybe in primary 2, you have no idea what's going on, like you don't know why that's happened to you. You just know that it's not right and it's unfair, and you've no one to blame in that situation but yourself, because you feel like it was all your fault, like nothing else happened that could have provoked it. And so when I went and spoke to my mum about these things, one of the things that she said that always sticks with me and that I will make sure that I don't say to anybody else is like, well, did you do anything to cause that? Like, it's not a question that you probably should ask someone that's just been pushed off a climbing frame. Like, did you do something to cause that? And truthfully, I never did. Like, I just minded my business. There was probably like a couple of times that I maybe snapped back because I was, again, processing all these big emotions as a child, but I can honestly say that no one deserves that regardless of the situation. So to be asked, like, was there something that you did to cause that? Like, it always made me not want to approach my mum with these situations. So when the bullying happened, I wouldn't go to her because I knew that she would say, well, did you do anything? Instead of, you know, let's fix this, like, what happened, like, can we find out what actually went down so that I can deal with this? It was always blame on me, like, I must have did it, like, and
it's
I
always
put
justifying their actions, isn't it? Like, you, whatever you've done's obviously caused them to do that, but that should never be justification for someone's reaction or something.
And I think inside it, like, it really internalised a lot of anxiety for me, because I then would blame myself for everything. I'd apologise for things that I didn't even do, and I would like get really anxious around people because I would think that maybe there was a problem, or like they didn't like me, and like I was different, so they would pick on me. I would just make sure that in my head I knew all these things before they happened, like almost like a way to protect myself. But I would always be the one to apologise, even if I never did anything wrong, because I was like, oh, that'll protect me. Like if I just take accountability for something, and even though it wasn't anything to do with me, I'd like hit into a chair and like accidentally be like, oh sorry, like just to the chair. No one was there.
Yeah, it's just a sorry thing, innit? It's like I always feel like if somebody like walks into you, you're like, oh sorry, as if it's actually their fault, it's not my fault.
And like they don't say anything back half the time, so I also think it's just a UK thing. But
it's definitely a British thing, you're right. So then obviously moving from that primary school up into secondary school, was there as much movement around there, or did you stay pretty much in the same school?
I stayed in the same high school, like from all the way up until I left. High school was a bit of a mixed bag for me. Like there wasn't as much bullying as primary school because I had been involved in my sports by this point. So I got involved in gymnastics, I got involved in karate, and I had a lot going on. So I lost a lot of weight that I had when I was younger, because the coaches were quite good with nutrition and as well as your training. They would always make sure that you had a healthy diet. So that helped me quite a lot getting into that when I was younger, because I was aware of my food sources, I was aware of what would give me energy, and I was aware of what would make me feel not so good. So I would end up making sure that I was eating mindfully, obviously like training like an athlete, because I was at the time, and then the weight fell off me and I felt like a lot more comfortable in my body and myself, and I think that showed when I was in high school. But I think there was a fine line between me being accountable and me being obsessive, and you do fall into kind of bad habits when you are a teenager, especially in high school, because you see all the other girls and you instantly compare yourself at that age. So there would be times where I would like intentionally like skip lunch because I was like, oh, maybe I'll look like that person, and like I had people that I seen as almost like inspiration in a sick way, because I was comparing myself against them and I wanted to be like them. And because I'd had such a rough time in primary school, I was like, well, I don't want to be that size again. I don't want to look like that again. I want to look like, you know, the popular girls and the people that I want to fit in with. So you know, if they're really slim, I want to be like that. So I'd be over-exercising and under-eating, and like I knew it was happening, but I thought like that's what I had to do to fit in.
Had to obsess about being like that, really? Yeah.
And as a young girl, I was never told, like, you don't need to be like that. Like, you don't need to be small to be seen.
Yeah.
So I just kept on with what I was doing, and it went completely unnoticed because I think a lot of the time my mum wasn't really interested in what I was doing so long as I was alive and well. Again, because there was no bond there. Like, it was a weird dynamic. At one point, like, I thought we had a relationship that was built, and then it would just go back to square one. Like, it's like she wanted to get close to me, but not too close. Like, she just struggled to have that bond and attachment like you would with a mum and daughter. Largely, and I always say this because of how young she had me, like, the resentment there was huge. And it was tough to watch because she was always really good with my younger sisters. And with me, it was always like, we were acquaintances, we were never close, like what some people are maybe with their parents. It was just small talk a lot of the time, or arguments. There was literally no in between. So when I was doing all this and I was doing my sports and things, I never told her, didn't really tell anybody this was going on. Not even my stepdad, when he was really involved in my life, and he took me to my clubs, and he was really supportive. He always wanted to be there at my competitions and things. He didn't even know, like, he didn't catch on to it at all. So because I was in this kind of delusion, everything was fine as far as I was aware. As long as I wasn't getting bullied again, I was fine to stay in this state the way I was. There was one incident, and I remember it so vividly. I think I told you this story the first time I met you, but there was a girl, and she followed me on Instagram actually, like the other week, and she was a really big bully in high school. Like, she was relentless with just me, and it was because I stuck up for somebody else that was getting tormented by her. Because I've always had like this moral sense of justice of, like, if I see something that's not right, I will interfere, or I will say that's not okay. So when that happened, I can't remember what it was about, but she stuck to me like glue. She wouldn't leave me alone. And I remember one time we were in PE, and I think this is why, like, I stopped enjoying PE so much, and like why I never put my full effort into it, which I obviously regret because I'm a PT now. But like, she was in the changing room with me at the same time, and there had been a few like glares back and forth throughout the day. Obviously, she'd been in the same timetable as me, like when you have columns in high school and you get to pick things. She was always in the same ones as me. So we went into the same class, we went in to get changed, and obviously there was like an audience. So she got fueled of having an audience, and like when she was doing things. So she like went up to me, said a few words, can't remember what they were, it was all a blur, but I remember they were probably like insults, and then I was like, what? Turn round, like, what was that? What did you say? And she sprayed a can of deodorant in my eyes, nearly in my nose, down my throat. Like, she was trying to like intoxicate me, gas me out. Like,
Jesus.
She was proper vicious, like proper, like, not nice. And I like had to run to the toilet, was screaming, my eyes were burning, I was like putting water in my eyes constantly.
It's psychotic behaviour, that, isn't it?
It's fucking brutal, like, it's actual, can't believe.
There's no better way to describe it, to be honest.
No, honestly, like, I was so glad I didn't end up going blind. I was actually really scared that I was, because of how stingy my eyes were, and I was putting water in them constantly. I was like coughing, I thought I was going to be sick, because obviously like all the gas is like in your throat. It felt like it went on for ages, but she must have only sprayed it for like a few minutes, but it felt like it was going on for ages. Obviously, like, my friends that I had at the time, they were like rushing to help me. They ran, grabbed the teacher. She had like left. I don't know where she went, but she'd like ran away. They eventually found her, and I think the only thing she got out of it was like punishment exercise, not even like suspension or anything like that. And I'm left like half blind. So that was like,
must have felt kind of let down as well, you know what I mean?
And it was like another example of like, I can't go to somebody with a problem because it doesn't get dealt with.
Yeah.
So,
or they get a punishment exercise.
or they just get one thing. And it kind of followed me into later life, where like if I had a problem, I wouldn't tell anybody, I would just try and deal with it on my own. So I became very like hyper dependent because of that.
Yeah.
And I would try and solve things on my own, because I had repeated patterns time and time again of, well, no one's going to help me if I ask.
Yeah.
My mum couldn't help me. the school did very little.
Yeah.
So for me, the only solution and the only answer was
Deal
I need
with
to
it.
do things on my own.
Yeah.
Because if I want to do something the right way, then I
Yeah.
do it myself. And that's the kind of pattern that I learned. So I found it very difficult to ask for help, and if I did, I would have to be like desperate.
Yeah.
I would always try and do things on my own.
Yeah, and you've spoken obviously openly, and also if you go onto your Instagram, you see, you kind of says help defeated women build strength and confidence. What does that, obviously we're going to get into it in a second, but what does the word defeated mean to you, and why was that phrase important to your kind of whole mission?
So defeated for me is like internal struggles. Like we've all had a feeling of failure, regardless of what that situation was that led to that feeling. We all have that internal feeling of, I feel really defeated about this, I feel really just frustrated, I feel like I'm in this loophole that I can't escape. And so I put that as a way to describe women who are in their fitness journeys, because like me, I was in a pattern of, I'm defeated being overweight, but I'm defeated being underweight, I can't seem to find a middle ground, I'm going from one extreme to the other and I can't escape this vicious cycle. And I didn't have anyone to tell me that it was okay to be the size that I was, or it was okay to build strength or to build up my confidence. And so I like to do that with my girls, I like to do that with my clients, because it's so important to me. And I don't want them to feel defeated, I don't want them to feel like they're starting again over and over again completely, and I don't want them to have that fear of failure. I want them to have that sense of achievement, I want them to have that sense of, I did that by myself and I'm so proud of that. And I want them to feel happy and not feel like they're stuck. And so that's why that word was quite important to me. I'd seen coaches before use like frustrated and like lost and hopeless and stuff, but I think for me defeated like really fits it perfectly, because that is probably how the majority of women do feel.
Yeah, and obviously I've gone through that at school, both primary and secondary, going through so much with the instability, then going into dealing with bullying in primary school, then going into secondary school, having that obsessiveness over how you look, then obviously dealing with more bullying, then realising that no one's going to help you, or in that time realising that no one's going to really help you but you. Then kind of getting into later school, coming out of school, was there any real kind of serious turning points, if you like, in your life, or anything else that happened that really kind of moulded you into kind of what you were going to become and what you were going to do with what?
So I think like there was a powerful lesson in me becoming hyper independent, and it was that no one was coming to save me, and it's something that I still remember even now, nearly 26, almost 10 years later, is that no one is coming to save you, and you have to get out of these situations on your own a lot of the time. But the kind of counteract to that is when I was in 5th year, I met my first boyfriend, and this was the danger of me not telling anybody I'm being hyper independent, is because I decided to go through with this relationship, and I felt like I could get myself out of it later down the line as well. So I was 16 and I met my first boyfriend when he was 20 turning 21. I didn't have the guidance growing up to be told that that wasn't okay, because what does that 20, 21-year-old want with a 16-year-old? Nothing in common that I can think of now. And if I had a daughter, I would be like, that's not happening. But for me, because I'd had this constant pattern of life of not being liked, not being accepted, the fact that someone wanted to be my boyfriend, that was like, whoa, like that is amazing. Like I will grab onto that with 2 hands and I will take it, because I've never had that validation, I've never had that acceptance, and I've never even had a boy like me or look in my direction, never mind someone want to be my boyfriend. He was a friend of a friend, and this was when Instagram was like fairly new at the time. They'd just changed their logo, I remember, from that brown one to like the pinky one.
Yeah. And
messages were still quite new at the time. So I had a personal account, I don't anymore, mine is just strictly business now. And I used it on Instagram to talk to him, and we spoke back and forth for a good couple of days, just like how we knew each other. I stupidly never asked his age because we were that deep in conversation, but I did bring it up later, and he told me his age, and in my head I was like, well, it's only like 4 or 5 years of a difference, like it's not that bad. And then when I went through with it, I was obviously talking to him in school. I never told anybody his age, never told anybody I had a boyfriend, and I just kind of kept it secret from my family. I did tell my stepdad eventually, because I got caught out in a lie, when I said I was going to go see a friend. And now this friend was always really good at covering for me, and she said that she would tell like my parents where I was if they asked, which was with her. But I forget that they knew my friend's parents. So he asked them, like, has Rebecca been round? They obviously didn't know the plan as such, and I think if they did, they would still tell him. But they told him that I wasn't there, and they were like, she wasn't meant to come round today. So he ended up finding out where I was, like picked me up. I told him the whole situation because I was out with him, and I told my stepdad about my first boyfriend, and he was like, that's not happening. He was like, he's too old for you. Like, he doesn't care about you. Like, he just wants to take advantage of you. And I was like, very in my hyper independent mode, very stubborn. Like, no, I want to go through with this. Like, he likes me. Like, he likes me for who I am. Not many people who have. I really want to see where this goes. And my stepdad kind of put his hands in the air and was like, okay. Like, he didn't obviously know what was about to come next. He just thought, right, you're going to get your heart broken, but that's fine. Like, you have to learn the hard way that this isn't acceptable. But he has told me now that in the back of his mind, he was like, I think something sinister is going to happen here. And he didn't feel like it was his place, because obviously that's my mum's job, but obviously I didn't tell my mum, and I told him not to tell her because of how really at loggerheads we were, and
yep.
Like, I was scared at like 16 that she was going to kick me out at that point.
Yeah, you didn't want to overstep the boundaries.
Yeah, I didn't want her to know, so I promised him that he wouldn't tell her, and to this day I don't think he ever has told her that I said not to tell her. So we went through with it, and he was like, I think that's a stupid decision, I think he's stupid, like, I don't know what he wants with you, but it's weird, like, it's creepy. And he didn't think anything of it, and then he was like, you can do what you want, but he's not welcome in this house, like, I don't want you to see him. So I kind of ignored all that advice, and there was one time we went out, and we were going out Bray Heads, we were going to walk, we'd just like done like the arcades and stuff, we'd come out, and we were walking back down. I was walking back home to get my bus. The bus stop is, if you know Bray Head, it's the bus stops are literally on the outside of the front doors. So I was walking past, it was called Escape, I think it's like Excite or something now, but it was Escape at the time.
Changed the names about 4 times.
Yeah, it was Escape at the time. So we walked from there down past the Clydes towards bus stops. He grabbed me, flung me down, and this was my first time of sexual assault, and I didn't really know what was happening. I thought this was what boyfriend and girlfriends do. I thought this was normal. It was a very big blur. I think I kind of blocked a lot of it out because I didn't really know what was happening. But he proceeded to sexually assault me there and then on the grass, and he only stopped when he heard someone coming past. He quickly told me to get up, start walking, say nothing. So that's what I did. And then when I seen my bus, I didn't even say bye to him. In shock, I just ran and got my bus. Sat in silence the whole way home, like I didn't say a word. And I had my phone in my hand, and I remember seeing a text from my friend asking how the date went, and I didn't reply, I just left it. And then I seen her the next day at school, and she knew something was wrong with me, and I didn't know what to say, and I couldn't really tell her what had happened, but I just told her that I didn't want to see him again. I was like, I don't really like him anymore, like, I don't really see this going anywhere. And she was like, no, that's fine, like, these things happen, like, whatever. And she made a joke about it. She was like, there's plenty of fish in the sea. Like, she obviously didn't realise the gravity of the situation, just because I didn't really understand it myself. I didn't know what had happened, and obviously, like, I was still fresh, like I was still a virgin, like, and the fact that my virginity had been taken from me there and then on the grass was quite grim.
Yeah, you probably didn't fully process that at that point.
Yeah.
Either, and obviously, as you said, you were trying to deal with not just that, but everything else that was happening in your life all by yourself without talking to anyone, so it can be difficult.
And like the pain and the trauma of it, like, I didn't understand fully what was going on. So I took my phone that I had at the time in high school, and I texted him that I didn't want to see him again, and that it was done, kind of thing. And you know how you like it was probably like one of those like flippy phones. So I was like typing for ages, like don't want to see you anymore. But
quite rightly so.
he like phoned me straight after I texted him that, but I was in class, but he kept phoning me, and I had to excuse myself and like pretend that it was a family member and I was gonna be on the phone. It was an emergency, and I picked up and I was like, I'm in school, like what is it? Like I don't want to talk to you, kind of thing. And he was like, I don't want you to feel like that, like let me make it up to you. I'm really sorry that happened, like it won't happen again, like I don't know what came over me, but you don't deserve that and I want to make it up to you and I really want to see you. And in my head I was like, oh well, okay, well he didn't mean it, he said sorry. Like again, not really understanding the gravity of the situation and not fully understanding that I had been abused or was becoming abused. I agreed to meet him again. And if I could go back, I would like shake my younger self and be like, don't do that, like, just don't see him. But went and seen him again and everything was fine. Like it was as if nothing had happened. He didn't bring it up. No, nobody brought it up. We just like carried on like it was normal. But I'm still processing it and it's like, I can't look at him the same way because I know that happened. But I still chose to stay with him anyway because I needed that validation so much. I needed that acceptance so much.
Because you'd never obviously had
because
it before.
I never had that.
Never know what it felt like.
So I clung on to it and I clung on to him. And so long as he wanted to be my boyfriend, I felt like I was the most important thing in the world to him. And I also felt like I was starting to accept myself so long as he wanted to be with me. So time went on and nothing happened like that again for a while. And then I was going to leave school because I just wasn't enjoying it. I've never liked school. I've never liked being in a box where it's rigid and you can't think for yourself. You're told what career path to go down. They don't let you get quite creative with it. They want you to go into like a good job. When I told them I wanted to do something with sports, they kind of laughed it off and was like, it's not a proper job. They're like, you won't get anything out of that. And my mum was always the same. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I needed something to get out of school. So stupidly, I asked him about this, my first boyfriend at the time. I was like, I really want out of school, I don't really know what to do. I'm kind of bored, like I just want to go and do something else, like maybe go to college, maybe work for a while, finish my exams and see what I want to do. And he suggested getting a modern apprenticeship near where he lived and I could stay with him whilst I completed it. And I was like, well, that's a great idea, like that'll get me out of school, like I can spend more time with you, I can get out of the house. Because at this point, me and my mum argued every single day about everything and I felt like I was walking on eggshells with her.
Yeah, that environment was not the place you wanted to.
No, and I was at an age where I could leave home if I wanted to and I felt like that's what she was going to do anyway. It got to the point where like me and my mum were like, not violent with each other. I was never violent, but she like would throw things at me, she would shout at me. She would like trash up my room if she was angry.
It was quite hostile. Very
hostile. She still is quite an angry, reactive person. So I just didn't want to be in that environment. And there was nothing my stepdad or that could do because we've talked about this a few times as to why he didn't help me at the time, and he was just trying to make a marriage work. Like unbeknownst to me, he wasn't happy either. But he obviously didn't have anywhere to go. Like he was married to this woman and they had to make it work somehow. So I see where he was coming from. Like he couldn't really interfere. Again, like he's got my two sisters to think about who are biologically his kids. And some people might be like, oh well, he should have done more. But if you're in that situation, you don't really know what to do. Like there is only so many resources available to you. So I'm very forgiving for him now and I understand like that he couldn't just protect me. Like there was so much more to that. So in my head I was like, I'll move out, I can move in with him, I can complete this apprenticeship. And it was like a modern apprenticeship in early practitioning, which I was like, oh, that'd be so good. Like I'd love to be in that environment because like I was always wanted to help people and I thought maybe I could help younger kids and like get involved with that. And I think inside I was like, I want to give them a really good childhood because I never had one. So I put two and two together and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. Told the school I was leaving early and they were like, yep, you can finish your exams and then you can go. And that was all happening. They weren't, obviously my family were not thrilled like that I was moving out at such a young age. And my nana strongly advised not to because she was like, you're so young, you don't really know this person, like you should maybe give it some time. Like, you can stay here with me if you want, and then you can go to college, and then you can see how it works out, but don't go with him. Like, she was practically begging me not to go. Maybe because she had a gut feeling as well that he wasn't a nice person.
Obviously, at that age though, when you're that young, I remember what I was like when I was that age, and you know, when your parents are telling you don't do something, you're inner rebel.
Yeah, you're very rebellious at that age.
You're like, no, I'm going to do what I want to do. Like, I'm at an age now where you can't tell me what to do, but you actually realise you actually only had your best interests.
Yeah, and like I say, I was very hyper independent, so I became that way, and I was going to do it anyway, regardless of what they said. And because I was at a legal age, or so I thought, like 16, you think you're the Billy Big Boys, you actually think you're a grown adult, but you're not. So I was like, I can do what I want, I can move out, like it's okay for me to do that. So when I'd moved out, originally he stayed with his mum, and his mum had full custody of his niece because her mum was a full-blown drug addict and had lost custody of her daughter. So I was moving into their home and their environment, and she never said anything to me, like his mum, because I think she was fully aware of the age gap. I don't think she was too thrilled with it either, and maybe they'd had that conversation and he just decided to go through with it. But there was always tension, and it was a shame because I would have liked to actually get to know her. But I understand why people are quite tense and hostile about age gap relationships. Even now, like, you could be over 20 years old and maybe going out with someone who's a bit older than you, and people will have an issue with that. So we never really spoke. It was quite awkward in the house. I felt like I was back home with my mum still because of like walking on eggshells and building that anxiety that I had never really dealt with, and just kept getting worse. And obviously his niece, I loved spending time with her. Like, she was just a toddler, and she obviously didn't know who I was, but we had a great relationship when I could like spend time with her. And eventually he did move out. He didn't drive, so we relied on public transport quite a lot of the time. So he moved from where he stayed, and it was like a 40-minute train to where his new place was. And we lived together, and as soon as we started living together, things just took up a notch and escalated in the worst way possible. He started to get more controlling. I wasn't allowed any contact with my family because he was convinced, especially my nana, that they would try and convince me to leave and go back to them. He was very selective about what friends I could see. He wanted me literally to go to my apprenticeship and come home, and that was it. And I could only be spending time with him, like in places that he knew, see his friends, and he was very like, he objectified me quite a lot as to like what I could wear, and like he thought I was a lot like stupider than I was, but I was very clued on to what was happening. So there'd be times where like, we'd have a full-blown argument because it was summer and I was wearing shorts, and he was like, you can't wear them, people are going to be looking at you, I can't be seen with you in those, people are going to look at you. Obviously very insecure in himself, but like he didn't want me to look good in any sort of way. So he felt like if I was looking bad, he would look good, and that would convince me in my head that no one else would want me because I don't look good enough, like I'm not pretty enough, like can't wear certain things because they don't look right on me. And it would make me think, well, he's the only person that can help me and like can be with me because he knows what's best for me.
Yep.
So it started off being like quite controlling. There was no violence or anything yet, but eventually like it did kind of like step up a notch, where it would like start by breaking things around him. And this is like a cycle that I see quite often. It starts verbally and like controlling, starts by like the name calling and all that, and then it starts getting physical. So he would break things around him, like he'd throw a glass behind me but act like he was going to throw it at me. He would like pick up something and break it, or throw something and throw it to the side, but it looked like he was going to throw it at me, like to scare me. And obviously like the noise does shake you, so you immediately stop what you're doing. That would be quite the case in arguments, but more so when he'd had a drink in them. He liked to go out quite a lot with his friends, he liked to go to the pub.
How often would they go out?
Probably like twice a week at least, I would say, not just at the weekends either.
And it was like getting totally
yeah,
on it.
because he had a part-time job, he's never like worked full-time, So he had a part-time job, and he would be out at the pub when he wasn't working. So he'd come back half cut or absolutely blackout, one of the two, and then it would just escalate like through the drink. And obviously I wasn't legal age to drink. I was turning 17, so I had never experienced that. So again, I was like, oh, that's how people must act when they've had a drink in them. So I would make excuses for him, like it's just a drink, it's not actually him. Or like if we got into an argument and he was sober, I'd be like, oh, I must have done something to cause that.
Do you feel like you've done that with all these behaviours though? Because you mentioned quite a lot there about all the little intricate things, like, you know, almost cutting you off from your family, you know, selecting what friends you choose, selecting where you go.
Yeah.
At the time, did you notice that? Or did you feel like it's now looking back that you can see that all that was quite clear?
He would word it in a way that it was for the best. So like, he would say, oh, I've just spoke to your nana, and you know, obviously she's not really happy about us living together, and she's asked for a bit of space.
Not manipulative.
But that conversation had never happened. He like lied. So he hadn't spoke to my nana. He'd never asked her like how she was doing, or like she'd never said that she wasn't happy to him, and she's never said in her life that she needs space. She's not that type of person. She always wants to solve things there and then. It's kind of where I get it from. So I did find that weird, because I was like, it's not something that she would say. But I was like, why would he lie? Why would he make that up?
Yeah, because he's got so much care for me, and he loves me,
Yeah.
and he wants the best for me. So why would
he lie?
That cares so much for me do this?
So I just accepted it, and I was like, okay, well, if she wants space, that's okay. And I never text her, because I was like, she needs space. She doesn't want to talk to me. I'm not going to ask her. I was going to leave her to it. She can reach out to me. And it kind of made sense with my mum and everything, because obviously everything that was going on in the house, I was like, well, obviously they don't want to talk to me. So I didn't really question it.
Yep.
I still spoke to my sisters, because they were so young. He almost kind of like allowed that, because I don't think he realised they actually knew what was happening. Like, he probably thought they were too young to understand, so
Yep.
he just let me talk to them, which was nice. So I'd always find out little bits and bobs from them, like what was going on, and it was nice to talk to them. But he would just frame it in a way where like it didn't seem weird, or like it was coincidental, or like, oh well, you know, this has happened, so that makes sense.
Yep.
And I would never really question it. So again, it made me feel like he was the only person that could help me, that wanted me, that appreciated me and actually liked me. With my friends, he didn't let me speak to the ones that knew he was bad news. So
It was very selective.
it was very selective. So like, he'd let me speak to my friends that I didn't really know so well, but the ones that I did know, like my friend that I'm still friendly with to this day, even after all these years, like since primary school, we didn't actually speak for a good number of years, because she knew he was bad news, but he had told her that I didn't want to talk to her. So she never asked or questioned anything. She just stopped talking to me. But then he came to me and was like, she told me she doesn't want to talk to you. So he would go to her and say that I didn't want to talk to her, but then he would come to me and be like, no, she doesn't want to talk. She doesn't want to talk to you.
Saying, yeah.
So we both never spoke to each other, because we'd been fed lies by him that none of us wanted to speak to each other because of whatever had happened. So it made sense. Again, never questioned it. Didn't put two and two together, like, oh, he's not said to this person though, so why has that happened? But it's because she knew he was bad news, and she called him out on it. And then he said, well, Bex doesn't want to talk to you anyway, so I don't know why you're bothering. And then she would just be like, what is he talking about? But he would like he convinced her, like he manipulated her that I'd said all these things about her, that I'd called her names, and like she wasn't a good friend, and
He's a compulsive liar.
yeah, didn't want to see her. And then he would come to me and be like, she called you a bitch, she said that you're this, she said that you're that. Why would you want to be friends with someone like that? She doesn't care for you, she doesn't have your best intentions at heart.
Yep.
And I'd be like, oh, well, okay, like I won't question that. Like, you're right, you're the only person that likes me.
Yep.
No one, everybody else is lying to me. Like, it was just this like wave of delusion. But with the other friends that hadn't really caught on to him as to like who he was or like what he was doing, he was like, oh, it's fine, they'll never know. I'll put on this front with them and they'll never find out. And that was what happened. Like, nobody really picked up on it until, you know, it all came out and we went to court and things like that, which ended up happening. So it just kind of escalated from there. And I started not to like my apprenticeship because I realised that it was something that I didn't really want to do. Like, I realised that I didn't really have a lot of patience for other people's kids. Like, I wasn't maternal back then, so I found it difficult. And I wanted to change what I was doing. So I applied to college to get me out of that situation because I knew that I didn't really want to be in the house because I felt like I was walking on eggshells around them and I could only do certain things.
Your environment was so in a such a negative place.
Yeah, and talk to certain people. So I was like, well, I'm going to have a fresh start. I'm going to go to college and like meet new people and actually do something that I want to do.
Yep.
So that's when I went into college and I applied for sports and coaching, like sports coaching and development, I think it was called.
Because you enjoyed it so much when you were obviously doing karate
Yeah,
and
like
stuff.
I loved like that. I loved like the sport element of it. So I was like, oh, sports coaching sounds like it's right for me. And in my head, I was like, maybe I could like be a PE teacher. Like that would be quite cool.
Yeah.
Because I always had a really great experience with my PE teachers. And I had a part-time job at the same time as all this going on. And even though it ended up being quite coincidental, I'd got a job in B&Q like part-time just to help with like me finishing my course. I'd had a few jobs like part-time. I'd worked in like Starbucks, B&Q, TGI's, like I'd worked in these places. And at the time, I was working in B&Q. And it was funny because my stepdad also worked in B&Q, but in not the same shop. But the manager was like, oh, you're Dominic's daughter.
No, you're sorry.
And I was like, oh, fuck, is he here? Because, like, in my head, they had all said, I don't want to talk to you. So I didn't want any confrontation at the workplace because of what like he had said, like, well, your family don't want to talk to you. But it turned out it wasn't the same shop, and I was like, okay, it's fine. But I remember telling the manager, I was like, can you not tell him that I'm here? Like, I don't want him to know. And I remember him finding it really weird because I couldn't really explain it as to why I didn't want that. But he was like, yeah, that's fine. Like, I'm not gonna say anything.
You want,
He was like, obviously, if he comes in and sees you, like, I can't do anything about that. But yeah, that's fine. No worries. So I had a part-time job, and I remember I was finishing up. I was on the close, and obviously my boyfriend at the time phoned me and was like, we're going out, usual pub antics, like, come meet us when you're finished work. I was like, I'm not really feeling it, like, I just want to go home, I don't really want to drink. And he was like, you will come and meet us, or I will tell, and I'd obviously told him about my part-time job. He was like, or I'll tell your stepdad that you work there. Like, obviously
just
that,
like threatening you almost,
yeah. And I was like, that was a big threat to me because of what he told me before. And it sounds like a stupid threat, but for me it was like, oh no, I can't tell him.
But at the time it seemed huge, huge to you at the point, yeah.
So I was like, right, okay. So locked up, finished my shift, and it must have been like the back of 8 or 9 at this point. And I went to the train station, and then I got a train into Glasgow to Maryhill, and that's where they were, in the subway. And he was friends with a lot of younger people, which I, to this day, just find so strange. Like, he's like 22 at this stage, going out to drink with like people who are underage, like 17 and all that, can't even get to pubs, they've got fake IDs and whatever. So, got to the pub in Maryhill, and then obviously his pals had been found out that they had fake IDs, so they were all drinking outside, and I had to like search for them. I didn't really know where they were. His phone was off, so I was like, where the hell are they? Like, pure scouring the streets of Maryhill, try to find them.
Yeah.
Found them in this play park, again, weird, drinking. And they were just like having a laugh and stuff, and then we sat for ages, and obviously like I had like a kind of like dragon suit, but I wasn't really drinking it because I just wasn't feeling it. So eventually they finished up because I was like, it's actually getting quite cold, like I'd rather like just go home. And I could feel him getting annoyed at me, and he was like, stop fucking moaning and all that, like just telling me off, like in front of his friends who didn't really say anything. They just didn't really get involved.
He's been quite vile.
Yeah, he didn't really get involved. He just kind of shut me down in front of his friends. And then they were all like finishing up anyway, so he was like, we'll go home. And I was like, that's fine. And I don't know where this came from, but I had like this kind of burst of courage. I think it was just because I'd had enough at this point. Like, it'd been over a year, nearly 2 years of him just berating me down to the ground, of like living with him. Not even like before then, obviously, when like the assault happened, but like a whole continuation of these things. And I just had enough, and I was like, I'm done here. I was like, the way you spoke to me in front of your friends, like, that made me feel really upset. Like, I didn't like that, and I can't really drink with you, so if the police find out that I've drank and like I get in trouble, like that's gonna be your fault. So we went home after that, and we were arguing literally like the whole way home. Even on the train and stuff, he was just like making a scene. I was trying to calm him down because like people were looking at us, and even argued with the subway guy like about a ticket because of like how angry he was at me. And then it was like dead silent like when we got off the train at his flat. Walked up to the flat and he slammed the door behind him and he like grabbed me and he was like, if you ever embarrass me like that in public again, I promise that'll be the last time that you do that. And then again like this wee courage came up where I was like, don't put your hands on me like that. Like I stood up for what was right. Again, like this moral sense of justice just kicked in where I was like, I'm not being treated right and I don't like this and I want to go home to my house, like to my nana, to my stepdad. Like I don't want to be here anymore, like I've had enough. So I pushed him off me and I was like, I'm going to pack a bag, I'm going to phone my stepdad and I'm leaving. I don't want to see you again, and I'm serious this time, like I don't want to see you again. And then he then, as I turned round, proceeded to throw me into the wall to the point that it was hard enough that I had like broke a rib because I felt the pain straight away. And then he just left, like he just took off. And they found him, like the police, when I'd phoned them, in a friend's house, hiding, because he obviously knew that he'd fucked up. So he was hiding in his friend's house. I didn't know this at the time. I just remember like being in agonising pain. And I seen my phone that had like fell out my pocket and it was like right in front of me. And I couldn't get it because it was like, I had to literally crawl and get it. But because of my rib, pain. I was like, I felt like I couldn't breathe. I was like, I need to like try and crawl and get my phone. So I got my bag and I remember like, I'm laughing because it's not funny, but it is. But I was trying to like get my bag that I had with me and like swipe my phone towards me instead of like trying to crawl and get it.
You remember it really vividly?
Yeah, so I was like swiping my phone, like hitting it, moving it towards me, trying to like get it within distance because I was literally like against the wall, like sitting up, trying to like grab it, and I couldn't even like lean forward. And I got it to like, when I was sitting, my legs were outstretched, I got it to like where my knee was, and I managed to like kind of touch forward a little bit enough to like phone the police first because it was the easiest number to phone. It was 999, I just pressed it 3 times, and I pressed call, I put it on loudspeaker because I couldn't bring it to my ear because I was in that much pain. And all I could say was help. Like I was in shock, I was in pain, I didn't know what to say to the operator that was dealing with me at the time. He was like, where are you, what's your address? And all I could say was like, I don't know, I need help, I'm in a lot of pain, like I can't speak, I think my ribs are broken, please just come help me. And they were like, where are you? And I was like, I don't know, I just kept saying I was in so much pain and shock and crying that I just kept repeating myself. And he was like, right, I'm going to try and find where you are, like stay exactly where you are, don't move. In my head I was like, oh, I can't move, I'm in pain, like broke my rib anyway. So the police were there like straight away, and they phoned my stepdad for me and were like, yeah, she needs you to come pick her up. And he answered, it must have been like the 3 a.m. at this stage, but he answered like with literally like 2 rings, which I'm quite surprised at. And I don't know if he was already awake, like getting up for the toilet during the night or something, but he answered pretty like straight away. So he came after that, and the police asked what had happened. Obviously they took pictures of my bruises, they took pictures of my face, because in the whole scrabble that I'd had before he'd flung me against the wall, I'd like obviously like took a few hits to the face stuff, and I had like these marks on my hands, like scratches, like trying to defend myself because he was like going for me, and then eventually he just grabbed me and flung me. So they took pictures of all that, and they asked me what had happened, and I told them the same that I'm telling you now. And then they asked if I knew where he was, and I was like, no, he just took off and left, like I don't know where he is. They found him in his friend's house the next day. So I had went home with my stepdad at this point, and I didn't actually have anywhere to sleep because they had turned my room into like a spare room for my sister. So I didn't have anywhere to sleep.
Yeah, once you went back home.
So I was essentially homeless, sleeping on the couch. They didn't think I was coming back, so they'd obviously changed my room, as I said. So I knew my mum was obviously in the house, and my stepdad told her what had happened because I was in pain, and he was like, I think we're going to need to take her to the hospital. Like, they didn't know my rib was broken at that stage. So my mum took me, which I was really dreading, and I remember there wasn't really a lot said in the car, and I hadn't really slept because I was in pain. Like, I had to kind of sleep upright, and even at that point, like, it was still quite uncomfortable. So I remember like waking up a lot during the night, and obviously like because of what had happened, I couldn't really sleep anyway. I was like so traumatized from it all, and I just like didn't really say anything to my mum in the car because after all these years, I still had in my head, she's going to say, did you do anything to cause that? So I just kept quiet. And this was probably the first time that I actually kind of felt care and attention from my mum, where she like just kind of, before we set off for the hospital, she kind of just turned around to me and was like, I'm really sorry that happened to you. And it's to this day that I think, did that happen with my dad? Is that why she feels that way now?
Yep.
And she had like tears in her eyes, and she was like, I'm really sorry that happened to you. And I was like, all I could say was, well, it's fine. Like, I'm out of it now. I just really want to go to the hospital. So she drove me. They confirmed it was a broken rib, and they were like, it's obviously not a whole lot you can do for broken ribs. So they were just kind of like, you're going to need to make sure it heals. Your lung isn't punctured or anything, thankfully, so just going to need to let it heal. It's cracked, so just make sure that you sit upright, you know, watch what you're doing. Obviously don't do any sports, things like that. So I hadn't been to my sports anyway in kind of a while because I was suspended due to an argument that my mum had with the club for a whole other reason. But I had to say to them, like, I can't come back because I broke my rib.
Yep.
And there's not a whole lot I can do, which was quite devastating for me because that was my escape. Like, for everything that was going on, I still went to my clubs, and like that was my escape, where I could like have people and speak to people freely, and obviously do a sport that I loved, and do my competitions and stuff which I loved. So I had to give that up, and that was probably one of the lowest moments for me. I think that's when it all kind of just hit me at once, and I honestly felt like I've never felt as low as I did.
Yeah, I was going to say
in that moment.
Yeah, low is probably the best way to describe it. Just low as you can
just
be.
On the ground, basically. So I was still sitting on the couch at this point. Obviously, I'd seen my sisters and stuff, and we had to tell them age-appropriate information as to what had happened, but they were obviously there and kind of tried to cheer me up and stuff because they're still young at this point. And my mum was just basically like, you're going to need to like live with your nana because we don't have room for you, essentially. And I was like, well, I seen that coming, and also we didn't really want to be in the same house because of things that we'd had going on. So went to my nana's, and I lived there, and the police, obviously, we had to go to court because he denied everything. He pleaded not guilty. He was charged, pleaded not guilty. So we had to go to court, and I had to go through it all again. His lawyer that he got given, I never got given a lawyer. I still don't know why this is a thing to this day, why victims don't get given a lawyer, but the defendants do. So
it seems a bit backwards to me personally.
Like, he got a lawyer and I never. So I got like charities, and Women's Aid has always been really good to me when I was going through that, and it's something that if I have the opportunity to, like, we just had our women's wellness event yesterday. Most of the proceeds for that will go to Women's Aid because of how much they helped me through my domestic violence. So I had that charity.
See, before you go on, that's actually something I wanted to touch on in terms of something I spoke to kind of Lauren about as well. In terms of the support networks that are meant to be in place, especially situations like that. Obviously, that was a little while ago, but you know, situations like that probably still are just as prevalent nowadays as they are then. Do you feel that the right systems are in place now, or do you still feel that it's a lot of work's needing done on it?
I do feel like a lot of work's needed done on it. I do feel like a lot of the time they're not taken seriously, these cases, and I do understand like it is very difficult to prove unless there are multiple witnesses involved. But with domestic violence, it will only be usually the perpetrator and the victim. There will be no other people present.
Yep.
Like, these abusers are very good at hiding who they are, they're very good at hiding things behind closed doors. People could get abused in plain sight and no one knows. So to have, oh, you need to have more evidence, you need to have more witnesses, how can you when they hide it so well? I don't really know many cases of abusers who are very vocal about the fact they abuse someone, or because they know they'll get caught. And it's always people like that who do it with women because they think they're an easy target.
Yep.
You'll never see them speaking to a guy like that. You'll never see them picking on someone their size. They'll always do it to people who they see as weak, who they see as vulnerable.
Yeah.
And as a 26-year-old woman nearly now, I do see that he preyed on me because I was vulnerable.
Yep.
I confided in him with everything that I'd went through in my life, and he took advantage of that.
Yep.
And so that's what abusers do. They hold things against you, they manipulate you, they make you feel like you're the only person in the world that you need, like, is them. And it's a very isolating place because, especially if they're a person of like high status, you think no one will believe you. You think that you're alone and like none of their friends or your family will listen to you because they're in your head that much. Like, you're convinced that they're the only person that can be there for you. No one else will listen. So you feel like you can't tell people anything. And because I was so hyper independent growing up, I never asked for help. I never said, I need help, this isn't right. Like, it wasn't until the very end where I was embarrassed and I had that feeling of rejection, like the way I did when I was getting bullied, that I stuck up for myself and said, I don't want to be treated like this anymore.
Yeah.
But it had to get to that point where I was estranged from all my family, where I didn't have many friends left, where he was nearly the only person I had left. And if I never still spoke to my sisters, I never still spoke to, like, if I never got in contact with my stepdad, I can't promise that he would have been there that night to help me. And then where would I have went? I would have to have gone to a proper shelter.
Yep.
There were many times where I considered going on the streets. There was a time before where I had left and it got into such a big argument that I decided to leave, and I decided to sleep on the streets. But I came back to him because I had nowhere else to go, and he convinced me that I was the only person, he was the only person I needed. So there was always a cycle of like coming back to him because I had nobody else.
Yeah.
But I think the justice system is so backwards. I think honestly you probably get more prison time for drugs than you do any sort of assault, any sort of like murder, any sort of sexual assault. And very rarely do people come forward about sexual assault cases because they think that they won't be listened to, they think they won't be taken seriously, they think no one will do anything about it, because there needs to be so much evidence and there needs to be a clear paper trail, which there often isn't because they mask it so well.
Yeah.
And it literally is one word against someone else's. And when we ended up going to court, he never got prison time, he got a fine and he got community service because it was one word against another's. And I remember his lawyer, he was vicious, he was awful. He accused me of putting makeup on my face to make it look like bruises. He accused me of lying, he accused me of trying to talk to him after he was on bail. When he was the one trying to talk to me, he showed me text messages of like, look, this is you speaking to him when he's meant to not, his bail conditions is not to talk to you. You're clearly trying to get him in trouble. I was like, he's the one texting me. Obviously I'm going to tell him to stop texting me because I don't want to. So I'm not just going to let him blow up my phone and not do anything about it. But they would turn it around on me and they tried to make it out as if I was a liar. And it was quite a tough case to go through. You know, you're by yourself up in the stand. I'm 17 at this point, like, I'm still a baby.
Already been through so much before that also.
Facing a courtroom. The only thing I had to protect me was a screen. But he can still see me. So again, I don't understand that in the court system. Like, why can they still see you? They shouldn't be allowed to see you. It should just be what's going on in the proceedings. But because I knew he was looking at me, that made me more nervous. And my anxiety was through the roof. And I don't think I always kind of somehow blamed myself a little bit for that court case because I thought if I was more confident in what I was saying, would he have got more of a sentence? Yeah. You know, you always think back to it. Because I knew he could see me and because of how awful his lawyer was, I was like, well, I can't do anything about this. I'm stuck here and I'm nervous. I'm a young girl. Like, no one prepares you for that. No. And there should be more support for victims. They should get given more support than. Although the charity was amazing for me and the woman who represented them was, I couldn't thank her enough. There should be more. Like, he shouldn't get the right to help himself when he's the one that's done the crime. Yep. or there should at least be one lawyer for him, one lawyer for me. It should be equal in that part.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it's obviously probably taken you this and so long to process this and be able to actually come out with such strength and speak about it. And it's, I say, anyone that has been through such traumatic experience, to be able to come on a platform and speak so openly about it will give others so much strength. And it's kudos to yourself and acknowledge how brave it is to be able just to even talk about it. So thank you, because I'm assuming you help so many people in doing so and continue to do it. And obviously post that experience, then having to almost start a new chapter in your life. What was that when kind of coaching PT and off the back of the college course, is that?
Yeah, so despite everything, I somehow still managed to finish my college course, and I got a B for my higher national certificate in sports coaching. And I beat myself up for that still, because I was like, oh, if that wasn't going on, I could have had an A, but what can you do? So I changed halfway through the course because I realised that I didn't want to coach kids anymore, and I wanted to pursue something that was more suited to me, which was fitness, health and exercise. So I went to City of Glasgow College and I changed course halfway through, after my second year, so halfway through going into the new year, when you start again in the following August. And it was the HND that I started on, and I loved it. It was great. Like, the lecturers, I had really positive lecturers, and I had really positive experience with the people in my class. I actually love college, to be fair.
Yeah. To be fair, I had a good experience in college.
It was a really, really good environment.
Yep.
Whereas like high school, they kind of like scare you when it comes to college and uni. They think like you're going to be left to your own devices and it's not going to be as enjoyable. But to some extent that is true. But I always had a really positive experience with my lecturers and with my class. And I never felt like there was any awkwardness or animosity. Nobody really fell out, because a lot of the people who are in college are maybe like a bit older. Like, not all of them come from school. You do get quite mature students a lot, and there was like mature students in my class who are like PTs now in like their late 30s, and you think you can start education at any point, really. So yeah, I loved that course, and it was a course I would recommend to everybody, especially if the same lecturers are still there. I had a lifetime restraining order that I decided to place on my ex to somehow protect me, because he wasn't in prison.
We needed something, didn't you? Because the system clearly didn't do anything.
Because I went into town every single day for college, I could see him in the street, and he's not in prison. So what's to stop him coming and speaking to me, or verbally abusing me in the street, or worst comes to worst, like physically attacking me again? Like, I had to protect myself. So I was still living with my nana at this time, and I was like finishing college, and I'd met someone else after, and on hindsight, I had not processed my trauma. I put it under the rug, and I don't think I ever really fully dealt with it until years later. But I remember just being an autopilot, trying to get through finishing my course, because that's what's important to me. And I always wanted to give myself a proper chance at education, because I never really did that in high school. So I met someone else. This was before my current partner, John, and it was a very quick relationship. It was a very fast-paced relationship. And I think I hid a lot from him because I was worried that it would be held against me.
With judgment.
Yeah, and like, obviously, my previous relationship where I'd been abused, a lot of what I'd said had been held against me. So I was very like reserved, and it was a very fast-paced relationship, and I don't really think, in all fairness, that he knew what he was in for, and I don't really think I knew what it was like to receive actual care and attention of someone properly. We went on holiday like literally 6 months into the relationship. That's how quick it was. And that was like my first introduction to like Cumbernauld, like where I live now. And I was still in college, like finishing off what I had to do at the time. And he was in uni becoming a teacher, and he was going into his probationary year. And we split up pretty much as soon as he started his probationary year. And his excuse was that he needs someone that was kind of on his level. It was the exact words he used, like, I need someone that was on my level, that is at the stage I'm at with my career. Like, you're still finishing college, I feel like you're a bit behind for me. Which made me feel like I had my whole life.
Immediately.
This small,
Yeah,
and not good enough.
and not the first time that somebody's made
Not
you
the
feel
first
that
time.
small, yeah.
So, come to find out off one of his friends who obviously knew that what he was doing wasn't right. I still don't know to this day if he's actually told him that he actually said this to me, but he messaged me on Facebook and he was like, I know that so-and-so has just broke up with you. I just want to make you aware that I think it's because of this girl that he's been working with, and I think they're going to start seeing each other. So, in my eyes, that's technically cheating. Like, you're speaking to someone else whilst you're with someone, and then you break up with that person to go with that other person. It's very quick.
Yeah.
So, I think they're still together to this day. But in hindsight, when I eventually did open up to him, I can see why you would get scared by that. I can see why that would put someone off. Because it's a lot of baggage, and it's a lot to maybe deal with, especially when I haven't really processed it myself. And if you need someone that's on your level, and you need someone that's at your same career path, like, I respect that. What I don't respect is, like, if you're seeing someone else, then, like, you just be honest about it. You know, like, don't message them and speak to them whilst you're with someone else. I think that's what I had a hard time with. So, at this point, I just decided, I don't like men, I don't want to be in a relationship, I'm just going to do my own thing. I rekindled with my friends that my abusive ex had told me not to speak to. They had met other friends that unfortunately were a bit of the wrong crowd, but I seen it as a good time, like a party environment, something to take my mind off everything. And I turned to drink, and I turned to drugs, and I turned to like just party drugs. You know, LSD, acid, eckies, like things that you would take whilst you were out. I'd never touched like gear or like heroin or anything like that, but we'd went to raves quite a lot where like these wee party drugs had been dished out. So we'd go like pretty much every weekend. It was a continuous thing. The come down just makes you want more of it. So I got myself into a bit of a state with that, and I didn't realise it was a vicious cycle at the time, but I was becoming quite dependent on it. And I see it as like a pivotal moment because I realised it wasn't for me, but at the same time, I could have enjoyed it without everything that was going on, and I could have made it a healthy part of my life, but it was a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
So I remember sitting during one of my come downs with one of their friends in someone's house, and they were talking back and forth about like Tinder and having a laugh and stuff, and she turned to me and she was like, I can make you a Tinder page. I was like, nah, like my taste in men is questionable. I was like, we're not doing this. She was like, no, it'll be so fun, like you don't have to get into a relationship, like just have fun with it. Obviously my experiences with like Tinder or dating, sex, all that kind of stuff had never been positive because of my first interaction with it and thereafter.
Yep.
So I was like, okay, well maybe it would be good to like try and explore options and like get more confident with it. And then I met John, and then things kind of changed. So he was one of the first people that liked me on Tinder. I think he'd actually like super liked me. I think that was a thing that Tinder was, where like they really, really like you, so they're going to swipe up or something. So I was like, oh, he's like really good looking. Let me talk to him, see what's happening. Because I had other people that liked me and stuff, but I was like, nah, they're not for me, not really my type. So I was speaking to him. I remember like we just got into like deep chat so quickly. Like John has never been one for small talk. He just dives straight into what he wants to know about a person to like really connect with them on like an intellectual level. And we were just talking about our dreams and like our aspirations and like, oh, what do you want to do after college? Like, what do you want? He was in uni at the time. He was like, oh, I want to build a business. I want to be an entrepreneur. Like, I want to be like a CEO of a really big company, and like I really want to work on myself, and like I have these goals. Like, what are your goals? And I was like, oh my God, like this person, like I was 19 turning 20 at this point, so he probably just turned 20 as well. I was like, this 20-year-old man is like so out there in this world. Like he's ready for anything. Like he is up there intellectually. He's like one of the smartest people I've ever spoken to in my life. No one around me is like that. And I remember it stuck out to me so much because I was like, I don't have anybody in my circle like that. Like, how do you learn?
It was like a complete breath of fresh
yeah,
air. Yeah,
like, how do you learn to think that way? Like, how do you develop that as a person? So we started speaking more, and then we met up with each other, like, it must have been like less than a week later. Our first date was the cinema, which everybody always laughs at, because that's like the worst date I can imagine, because you're just not talking.
but then at that point, probably it was quite good just to not talk,
Yeah.
because you've obviously been so held back from the previous relationship. That's like,
Well, yeah, so I don't know what came over me, but I actually decided to tell him about some things before I met him, because I was like, you know, I really like you, and I can't do this for fun with you, so you need to kind of know what you're dealing with and what I'm processing if we're to move forward. So I kind of let him in on a few things just to kind of test the waters. And I've never met someone so compassionate about something that someone else has been through. He was perfect with it. Like, he knew exactly what to say. And he wasn't put off by it, which I was so surprised, because I was like, usually I tell a story and everybody's like, geez, oh, like, that's too much.
Yeah.
And I was so used to just being like not enough or too much for everybody. So I was like, okay, well, now that you know, if I'm a bit quiet at the date, like, this is why.
Yep.
Like, I'm quite reserved around men, obviously, as you can understand. And he was like, that's fine, why don't we go to the cinema? You know, we don't need to talk. We can sit and chill, we can watch a movie, and we can go for dinner, and then we can do whatever you want after that. If you want to go home, that's okay. If you want to go out for drinks after, that's fine as well. So he picked me up, and I remember that I just didn't say anything. I just sat in the car and said nothing.
Not one
Not
word.
even hello. Just sat in the car and I said none. I was so nervous.
Understandably.
But it was so ironic, because not long before that, I had phoned him and been like, do you want to go to Terminal V? Like, do you want to go to a rave? Because I was still in this, like, try to hang on to this party girl era.
Yep.
And he was like, no. He's never been into that.
Not having it.
He's like, when you asked me that, he said, I genuinely questioned, like, what I was doing. So he's never been into that. Like, maybe when he was younger, but not now.
Not now. Mature adults.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he was obviously wise beyond his years at like 20, so
Yep.
he was like, no, you're all right. If you want to go, though, have fun. So we still laugh at that to this day. And obviously we'd like had our date and stuff. It took him ages to like crack a conversation out of me, because I was just so nervous. I was like, I'm putting my wall up before somebody batters me or like takes it down again. I probably shouldn't joke about that, but somebody like takes a like complete piss out of me. Like, I'm just gonna keep my wall up, because I was protecting myself.
Yes.
I didn't want to be hurt again.
Yep.
So we cracked the conversation out of me. It must have been like an hour and a half later. I was like actually not just giving one more dancers. But I genuinely think he must have sat there and wanted to go home in that moment and was like, what a waste of time. But eventually he did get me talking, and he was like, right, okay, like, we're getting somewhere. Funnily enough, he's never asked me out.
Oh, really?
I'm living with a man who's never asked me out. So
I think he's not need to say it anymore, though.
well, I've always asked him about this, and he's like, I just kind of knew. He's like, I don't want to waste any time. He's like,
Aye.
he's
As
like,
you said, he gets right to
yeah.
the point, doesn't he?
He's like, I know what I want. I'm not going to like waste time on it. So we have decided that is our like anniversary, is like the day we met up.
Ah, fair.
Which is the 23rd of August 2019. So we spent like 3 days with each other. I was still working and stuff like that at this point. So I remember straight after Nando's, we went to, it was Missoula, it's now Slug and Lettuce.
Yep.
We went to Missoula and we had a few drinks. And then, well, I had a few drinks, he was driving. And then he took me back to my house. It must have been like the early hours in the morning. And I was like, I've got a great idea. I'll just grab my clothes at my house and we'll sleep in your car. And then I can just go to work.
Let us sleep over in the car.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So, came home. I had like obviously been infilling my stepdad about everything. I was like, don't worry, he's not like, he's only like a couple of months older than me this time.
I like that this
yeah.
time.
So he kind of knew what was going on. And then I told my nana about things, and she was like, oh, that's really nice. Like, hopefully like it works out kind of thing. And then yeah, we ended up spending like 3 days straight together. So I had a friend that was moving out, and I'd like obviously told her like my situation, and I didn't want to live with my nana anymore and like all that kind of stuff, and like she was going to move out because she lived in quite a crowded home. Like she got 5 siblings and they shared like a 2-bed house, I'm pretty sure. So she wanted out of that, and we found like this wee flat in Renfrew, and I was staying with her between that and my nana's house. So like John would come up and spend time at that flat as well. But eventually like I moved out of that house, and again this is where I was homeless for the second time, because she kind of pushed me out the house. She wanted her boyfriend to live there instead of me, and they'd had like conversations about this like behind my back. So unbeknownst to me, like they were all talking about like moving out, and he would like come to the house and be like, why has she not left yet, like all that kind of stuff. And I caught them out on it one day, and I was like, what's actually going on here, like why are you talking about that?
Yep.
And she would like cover it up and be like, oh no, well, we were going to get a house together, but obviously like you wanted to move out, so I thought it was right that we move in together, and I didn't know how long it would be that you were staying here, and I thought maybe like you would have moved out by now, and then like my boyfriend could have lived here. I was like, so you just moved with me so it was easier for you, like you didn't actually want to live together. So it was like quite hurtful. So moved back in with my nana because I had nowhere else to go, like, you know, homeless again. It was either that or like I couldn't live with John. Obviously we were like so fresh, like literally
it's brand new.
Literally not together even a month yet. Couldn't go back home either because like I knew I wasn't wanted at home and all that kind of stuff. And I just said to my friend at the time, I was like, well, she was like my ex-friend at this point, I was like, I'm not paying that rent because you've kicked me out, and like I think that's pretty shit to be honest. So she ended up, me and her were like arguing back and forth on text. John actually had to speak to her and was like, this is out of order, like you have kicked her out. She is, if you want rent to be paid, your boyfriend who wants to move in can pay that, because he is moving in to your house.
That should seem natural to me.
I finished college obviously, and then COVID hit, so I was like freshly graduated, like didn't really know what to do. Everything was shut down, the gyms were shut, everybody, it was like ghost town, everybody went into complete isolation. So I did a lot of like Zoom classes and stuff for free when I first started, and a lot of the time I would do them either from my nana's house in the garden or obviously my John's mum's house, like in her back garden. I've jumped about like outside like a pure maniac, but it really did help people get into exercise at that time. His mum would be on like Zoom calls and like really important meetings, and I'm out the back like, come on guys, like let's get active today, we're going to do this class. I was
like Molly, she done MetaFit with Molly in lockdown, so she was doing kind of similar with herself.
Yeah, so there was a lot of jumping about like a maniac, but it kept people going. More and more people came to the classes because they were free. I had like 50 people on a Zoom call at one point. One of my first ever clients came from those Zoom calls, like it was wild. So I was actually an online PT before I was an in-person PT.
Yeah, I was going to ask that actually. I said you never actually stepped, obviously before you became an official PT, you never actually done in-person PT, it was always just online.
No, the gyms were closed, so I ended up living with John temporarily. We were like 6 months fresh, so kudos to him for this. But he lived, his room wasn't that big, you know, his house wasn't that big. But the reason I ended up moving in with them was because my nana's got rheumatoid arthritis, so you get put on a medication for that that's methotrexate. It's basically like a cancer drug. It really suppresses your immune system, makes your hair fall out, that kind of thing. So she's prone to things like a cough, a cold, like it can floor her, never mind COVID. So she started to get in her own head about me coming back and forth from Cumbernauld, because she was like, you could be a carrier and not know about it. Which I understand, like obviously she's trying to protect herself. She's vulnerable, she's an elderly person. So I lived with them for a long part of COVID, like moved into John's mum's house, and so long as I did my bit in the house and interacted with her and like kept the peace, she didn't take rent off me, like she was she was so good that way. Like some of my best memories are like during that time. and then obviously like doing my Zoom classes at the back. That's where it really took off.
Yeah.
And that's where my
Did
business started.
Did you get quite popular with the Zoom
Yeah,
classes?
like,
What was the kind of general attendance, if you like?
Well, as I say, like at one point a class had like 50 people, but
it's quite a lot.
a lot of the time it would be like over 20, all of which were mainly like female, and that's when I realised I liked coaching females. Like I just bonded really well with them. I gelled with them.
Female only coach.
Yeah, like I bonded really well with them. I gelled with them really well. So that's where I started my business, was around about that year, 2020.
And was it because I can't remember if it was the episode before this or that. It's one before we spoke about those names. You know, when you start out, it's like, you know, PT by John or like Coach by Bex. What did you start out as then?
I started as Rebecca McKenzie Fitness.
Okay, yeah.
It was like the only thing I could think of. Wasn't very creative back then. I just wanted to get my name out and like show my skills, and had my certificate come through the door from SQA that I was like qualified and all that. Got public liability insurance. I was rolling. And
where did you start? So where did you start PTing?
So in GID gyms in Cumbernauld, John had a friend, Jamie, who worked there. He's in the police now, but he worked as a PT there, and he got me a job from like giving the good work to the manager. So that used to be Exercise for Less, and then GID gyms took over that. They bought all the Exercise for Lesses. So they were getting renovated, and it was like one of the biggest gyms, and that it was going to be in Cumbernauld. Like I remember it was the next best thing. Everybody was really looking forward to it. So I got a job there. We got training and stuff, and I went straight on to rent because I was rent from Exercise for Less. And they had a really good tier system of like your first month was free, then it was £100 a month, then it was 200, 300, 400. I stayed at 400 at JD for a long time because I came from Exercise for Less. They never put my rent up. It was only like towards the end when I was like going to leave that they put the rent up after that, and it went to like £500 a month and stuff. But it was a really good experience. I learnt more on the gym floor than I ever did like in my course or anything like that, and it was a really good experience. Like it shaped me. It built my character. And this was also around about the time I started therapy as well, because I had to, if I realised I was going to help other people,
you'd help yourself.
I had to process things myself, and I hadn't processed anything really that had happened to me over the years, even since I was really small and my mum went through her stages of neglect with me. I hadn't even processed that. So there was a lot of things I had to deal with, and I still am in therapy now. It's been on and off because it's hard to face. That's why people don't stick to therapy, because there's things that they face and have to go through that they don't like talking about. But I stuck with it, and I'm still with the same therapist now that I've used for the last nearly 5 years. It has really shaped me as to who I am as a person.
And as a PT, what would your clients, how would they describe you as a PT? If you had to Now you need to be honest with us.
Positive things, but like I think probably the best thing that comes to mind is like I'm just so caring. Like I care more than them sometimes, like about their journey, and that's why I kind of sighed a little bit, because I was like, because I put so much into it to the point where it's like I'm this wee like proud mom on the playground, like
as you should be,
celebrating everything they do. It's like a baby taking their first steps. You're obviously like so buzzing for them, like over the top buzzing. That's how I feel towards my girls.
You're their biggest fan, aren't you?
Yeah, that's how I feel towards my girls. Like anything they do, big or small, I'm right there in their corner. Yeah,
and you talk about building that unshakable confidence. You know, you know, it's sound shoes. What does that look like in practice then, in terms of, you know, helping people sustain it, not just in coaching, but out with the coaching sessions after they've, you know, worked with you? What's it look like?
Like from start to finish. So for me, like everybody's journey is very individualised. I've worked with people who are chronically ill. I've worked with people with chronic health conditions. I've worked with people who are just your everyday woman, maybe a student, maybe have a 9 to 5. I've worked with nurses who do 12-hour shifts. Big up the NHS for that one. I've worked with people who are mums. I've worked with people who are told by medical professionals that they will never do anything really for themselves. Like, it's a wide variety of people.
Yeah, you take real pride and care, and not just taking someone on for the sake of taking someone on. It's like taking someone on to almost build a real connection, a real bond to help them, you know, become and discover the best best women they can be. And obviously, as we spoke about with Vyra, you know, you had your women's wellness event yesterday, went really well.
Yeah, it was so good.
Yeah,
there was over 30 people there.
Wow.
Mixed clients between myself and Morgan.
How did that feel, having so many?
Oh, so good. It was like a pinch me moment for both of us. Like, the fact that this is our job, like we get to do that and we get to help people and have a room full of women who are willing to learn and talk to each other and support one another. It's girlhood, like it's what it should be.
Yep.
And it's just like this moment where you're like, is this actually real? Like, you can't quite believe it's happening, that you get to have that impact. You don't quite believe it. Imposter syndrome was really staring me in the face, but it's the best I've felt is up there sharing my knowledge and helping other people. And I genuinely feel like that's my life mission, is to like help other people, and I'm so passionate about that.
Yeah, you're very much on the way and doing that and living and breathing it every day. You know, it's so interesting to see. And, you know, you think there'll be more events, more projects that coming up that you're excited about? Anything that we can tell us? So.
Well, nothing in the works as of yet, but we do really, really want to do another Women's Day again. Yeah. Like, that went so well the first time. The only thing I would say is, like, maybe we should give more notice, and I think we only had like a couple of months notice to give because it's in the middle of summer. Like, obviously it's difficult to get people, but the people that did turn up, like, we're so appreciative, we're so thankful for them. So we do want to have another Women's Day, 100%. Like, we'd love to do that in the near future, and get in more talks, get in more professionals, and really, again, just help people. Like, yesterday we spoke about like contraceptives and menopause and menstrual cycle and different topics with like PCOS, endometriosis, pregnancy, post-pregnancy, like things that women will go through and how it affects their fitness as well. And that's something that everybody should be made aware of. And I can't say that I had that in my course. I've never learned that through life. So it's good for other people to learn it as well, and to show that we know what we're talking about and that they're in safe hands, and to be up there, like, for your clients to be looking at you in like awe and amazement. Like, it was just amazing.
Doing that environment to be so comfortable and a real environment to give them the best possible platform to you know, go forward. In terms of for sitting back here in 5 years' time, where do you see Vyra and yourself?
I don't think there's a ceiling that we can't break. I think there's always opportunities for us to take on, and I would love for myself and Vyra to be one of the best female coaches in the UK. Obviously not the best, because there definitely are people much more better than me that I'm so willing to learn from. But I look at my coach, for example, Taylor, and I think, you're who I want to be. Like, you're up there with like one of the best female coaches in the UK, and her models and my models are so perfectly aligned, and that's why I am coached by her. Because even I need accountability, and she and I are very alike, and everything that she stands for, like just femininity and empowerment within the industry, it's something that I really want to strive for as well. And it's something that I really care a lot about, is giving women that space to take up and to know that they are enough, and that their journey is unique, and that they are special, and that they can do anything that they want to achieve. The body is so adaptable, the mind is so adaptable. How you shape your journey and how you shape your mindset is so important. And like, that is the type of message that needs to be spread more and encouraged more in an industry that arguably is so full of men, and arguably like men still take up the majority of gyms. Yep. Like, that's why we're so passionate. I work in Limitless in Cumbernauld now, and we do things like Women's Wednesdays, where on a Wednesday I'll guide someone through the gym for an hour, free of charge for their first time, and I'll show them equipment, I'll get them familiar with exercise, take them through a wee circuit, explain different things about what we do, get them familiar in the gym and comfortable in that environment, just to introduce them to a safe space. And when I first started the gym, I'd love nothing more than that. And I noticed a gap where like there wasn't that for people. I presented it to the gym owner at first, like, why don't we just close the gym for an hour and just let them come in without men? And he was like, no. Like, that would have been amazing, but obviously I could see why he would lose out on that. So I came up with the idea of just like a little hour during the day where they can come in and have a safe space, and it's quiet during that time. Like, mums can drop the kids off at school, they can come for an hour, they can have that time for themselves. It's so valuable. It's just like ideas like that I'm so grateful to have that space to take up and to give women that space as well. And I've never really seen any other gym do that. watch everybody else do it now that I've said it and start copying me, but it's
we'll know where it started.
Yeah.
We'll know where it started.
But like I would encourage more places to do that on the other hand as well, because I think it's such a good idea for like women to have that. And as I say, when I first started the gym, I would have loved nothing more than someone guiding me through and explaining to me like, this is how things work. This is what this machine does. This is how this body part works. This is why that's important for you.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not just weight loss and fat loss. It's like functional movements, day-to-day tasks, longevity of life, how to work around injuries, pre and postpartum life skills that you need to build through fitness. So for me, that's what I teach as well, and like I'm working more on that, and I really want to be the central hub of my knowledge. Like that is what I know, and that's what I can give to people. I just want to be well known for that, and like my ability to help anybody, no matter where they come from.
Yeah, no, that's really amazing. Genuinely, and obviously spoke to you before about Molly doing more or less, you know, she's doing the same thing, and I think it's important people like yourself, Molly, are really, you know, standing up in front of women and helping almost guide them into the gym, around the gym, outside the gym, and really helping them, you know, build an environment and build a place where they feel comfortable and safe and have somebody they can put their full trust in. To kind of cap off, for women listening right now or listening to yourself, you know, whether it's on your Instagram, on this episode, who maybe feel stuck, you know, defeated, lacking confidence, what's one simple step they can take to begin to start kind of turning things around?
Don't shoot yourself in the foot before you even tried. Like, always try. You won't, it's cliche, but you will never know what you're capable of until you try. And people will be so quick to push off the gym and push off exercise and be like, well, that's not for me, I could never do that. You're not giving yourself the opportunity to try. You're just not doing it because you think it's hard, or maybe you have all these misconceptions in your head and you think you're going to look bulky, or you think that you're going to get too obsessed with it. You think that you need to be in the gym for a long time or like so many days a week to see results, when you don't. And you think it's like really difficult because you've not had someone to guide you through it. You've had a lot of guesswork, and you see it's quite a negative thing. It doesn't have to be that way. There are other people out there like me who are willing to help you. It doesn't have to be me. It could be someone in your area. It could be someone that you know, someone your friend who goes to the gym every day. Like, just try, and I guarantee after 20 minutes of being in that space, if it feels comfortable enough for you and you've got the right support, you'll want to make that a part of your life. You'll want to be alive longer for your kids. You'll want to live longer. You'll want to feel better. You'll want to move better. And you'll want to live a better life overall. You want to eat better because it makes you feel good. Like, things will start to happen outside of your life that you'll go to the gym for to de-stress, or equally, it will make your life better in other aspects of your life, not just fitness. It really does mould into every area. And I think that's the bigger picture that people need to remember, is like, it's not just for looks a lot of the time. It is for mental health, for physical health, for longevity of health. And you won't know these things unless you try it. If you try it and you say, look, that's not for me, there's so many other ways to move your body, and there's so many other ways to exercise. My good friend Lauren does yoga, and she does all of her classes and she does all of her practices within her business. And that is a prime example of, like, you don't need weights and things to feel good in yourself. You could maybe try that to move in your body. You could get out more, have fresh air, get out when it's a nice day, which is very rare where I live. So there's other ways that you can feel good in yourself. Don't narrow yourself down to one box, but again, you won't know these things if you just don't go out there and try. But you know, don't just say, oh, it's not for me, and you've never even done it before, because you could really benefit from it.
Yeah. Oh, listen, I don't think there's any much I can say that tops that, to be honest. That's amazing. But listen, thank you so much for being so open, honest, and telling, you know, everybody the full story of yourself. I'm sure you'll help so many people, and as I said, we'll continue to help so many people more. Good luck with Vyra in the future. I'm sure it's going to shoot to the stars and take to the moon.
No, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.